everybody, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Jason, and this is the End of the World Movie Reviews podcast.
We'd like to welcome you all back for episode 2.
Yeah, it's May 27th, the day after Memorial Day, and we're just hot off the release of X-Men Days of Future Past.
Frankly, I'm just hot. Like, there's so much water coming off my balls. I thought I was in Titanic right now, just sinking.
It is pretty hot out here in Fort Collins, I won't lie, but it just randomly hails, so that's cool.
It does do that. But, I mean, I feel like I can fly, so we'll be all right. So Jason, what's new this week? What's going on?
I have a shop over in Loveland, Grand Slam Sports Cars and Comics, and
yeah, that place is all right, I guess.
We actually got broken into this weekend, which is just completely awful. So, if you're listening to my podcast, dude, who broke into my place, which, I mean, if it's one of the 17 people who actually listen to this.
18, bud.
18, we're in a lot of trouble, so.
The point is we're going to find you.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get justice. Like, there's the hounds of justice are out there.
Justice isn't free, dudes.
Yeah.
It's coming for you.
So after that, I mean, I saw Days of Future Past, and, we're going to talk about that obviously later.
Right.
And otherwise, yeah. Yesterday, I got to swing by another local podcast. We have a lot of podcasts in the area, and there's this one called the Mega Power Hour, which are these two rednecks. It's really interesting. There's these two rednecks. They do...
Hold on, now, the redneck is almost a racial slur. We got to keep it PC up in this motherfucker.
All right, so we have two hicks who like to talk shit about wrestling and about other stupid stuff.
There's that. They're two of our good buddies, Superstar starring and that other guy who doesn't speak very well and he doesn't know what rhyming is.
Yeah, Buck Burgess.
Oh, yeah.
But, they had me on their show to talk about comic books, and they got a pretty good podcast over there at the Mega Power Hour. They've been doing it for like half a year already, so...
Yeah, it's a pretty good... If you claim to like things, I recommend you go over their Facebook page and, click on a link, like something, listen to something. I would just encourage all of you to like more stuff, because if you don't like stuff, well... There's a bottle of Drano in your kitchen, probably. You can just go take a couple gulps out of that, call it a day.
So, yeah, I did a little spot on there for just talking about comic books, and then, of course, plug the show. So we're already plugging the show, episode 2.
Yeah. And, this week, look for us on iTunes. We're going to be loading that up.
Yeah.
Listen to us on your little iPods. It's like me and Jason are with you all the time, just touching you while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
Caressing you while you jog. Dropping your kids off at school.
Nobody jogs anymore. And nobody has any kids.
Greg McDaniel jogs for like 30 seconds before he passes out from exhaustion with his fat dog. But I mean, I love Dad, and now I'm grounded because I said that, because I've been insubordinate to my father.
They just raised the rent on you, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. I mean, that's my fault too, because I'm the Jew in the house. So
yeah. So what's new with you other than getting the rent raised on you?
Oh, drinking a lot, being a bad person, the usual shenanigans. Nothing exciting. Though, I guess I do have to bring up that we have to dedicate this episode to the memory of our dear friend Chad Johnson, who died tragically last week while trying to save a bus full of orphans and nuns with his face. Like, literally, he sacrificed himself to let the bus hit him directly in the face, thus saving the bus from imminent destruction.
So Chad's dead?
Chad's definitely dead. The bus hit him in the... All right, Chad's not dead. But, a bus definitely hit Chad in the face.
Something hit him in the face.
He doesn't really know what happened. But actually, Chad is 100% dead to me because we were supposed to go see this movie together, and he just bailed on me because, let's be fair. I'm awful and not fun, so I wouldn't want to hang out with me either. But, Chad, you lied to me. That's the moral of the story. You're a liar.
Yeah, Chad, don't lie to people.
Please don't lie to us, Chad, even though you did save that bus full of nuns with your face. Yeah. And we appreciate that, because we definitely need more nuns and orphans. Why couldn't you save the Swedish Bikini Team bus? You're a bad friend. That's the moral of the story.
Yeah, well, so Chad is just going to have to move on. I mean, you had to see this movie twice, basically.
I was forced to see it twice,
but not because of Chad. It was because of someone else.
It was Rambus's fault. For people that don't know Rambus, he moved away. That's all that matters. He's living inside of a tauntaun. The tauntaun might also be like the girl he's gonna marry. I haven't decided yet.
He's like that giant. I mean, here's the thing. Like, Dan is like that giant vacuum from Spaceballs. Like, but the vacuum.
He goes from suck to blow.
Well, yeah, he definitely goes from suck to blow, but
I know Chad Johnson goes from suck to blow like that.
Yeah, but the blow button is like broken, and he just sucks. And he's
constant sucking.
But he only sucks the fun out of everything I do.
He is a sucker of fun. But
yeah.
He didn't abandon me like Chad Johnson, who is not dead in real life, but is dead in my heart. And that's what happened to me this week. I'm just heartbroken.
Yeah, well, I'm heartbroken for different reasons, but,
Right. Well, now that we got all that out of the way, I guess we can get going on the show. Today we're going to be reviewing X-Men Days of Future Past.
Oh boy.
Well, I was in a pretty bummed out mood after Godzilla, because Godzilla meant a lot to me. But, we talked it out and we got there. Jason, I know you're a big X-Men fan.
Yeah, I mean, Days of Future Past is one of the, I don't know, I mean, I would say it's one of the seminal storylines. I mean, it's only 2 issues.
Sure.
But pretty important to the history of comic books.
It's just a good story. Like, if you are into comic books and haven't read it, I recommend you go pick it up. Check it out.
Well, I mean, it's a time travel story, and this was written back in 1981, where, people didn't... Time travel stories weren't in the mainstream. Like, in 1984, 1985, you get Terminator and Back to the Future, and that shit, becomes super mainstream at that point. And so it was kind of a big deal when it happened, because in the comic it was just so out of character with what was going on, and it was very well done. So it was bold that they kind of decided to, I think it's a really interesting decision when all these comic movies are like, we're going to do a comic about this specific story. And when Captain America did Winter Soldier, that was a big deal, and we weren't sure if that was going to turn out to be like Winter Soldier, and, sure shit, it did. And that's why Captain America, you don't hear me crying about it. You hear me talking about how good it is. I never, at no point do I ever tell people, like, don't see that movie. Like, you must immediately see Winter Soldier, because that reflects the comics that I read. But Days of Future Past, well, I mean, we'll get into it here. But
yeah. Well, I mean, what I really like about comics in general is that, like with any sci-fi thing, you can weave in so much, like, reality very subtly and eloquently if you can pull that off, Like, so X-Men always had a lot to do with, like, racism and all these, like, very worldly problems, and they handled it really well. Like, some superheroes and shit, like, they're just really boxed into their Gotham City or their fucking New York Spider-Man thing, but, like, this is all over the world, and it's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
They kind of try to do that in this movie, but, like, it just doesn't really go all the way through, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll talk about that as we get there. But, whoa, hold on. We have a special guest today, it turns out. We were just getting ready to talk about this movie, but, we have a special guest. I think, his name is Logan, I think?
Logan, he's got a weird haircut, though. Logan, is that actually your name?
Call me Wolverine.
Oh, Wolverine.
Wolverine. Wait, how do you say that again?
Wolverine.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Logan, a.k.a. Wolverine, I hear he might have made an appearance in this new movie.
That's exciting. I mean, you're a star. I mean, you're not Hugh Jackman, though. You are actually Wolverine.
Almost.
Almost. I mean, well, anyways, he's going to be kind of chiming in. I mean, we can shoot the shit with him later. I know a lot of people are interested to find out about what you do for fun.
I wish I could tell you.
Oh, I mean, what are you, like, gagged for silence or something? Or
come on, Logan, what do you like to do for fun?
I like to hunt.
Oh, whoa.
All right, well, I mean, do you hunt when you do? Do you hunt to kill?
I'm not here to impress you.
Well, clearly, I mean,
all right.
I saw the movie. Yeah. Oh,
all right. We'll get back to you later.
Yeah. So Logan's going to be here throughout our review. So let's get into this. X-Men Days of Future Past. This movie is brought to us by 20th Century Fox. They are not a part of Disney, so that means that they aren't in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So that means that they're kind of bound to their own rules. They have their own... Basically, they don't really care what's going on in any of the other Marvel movies. So that means they basically get to do their own shit, and they've been doing that for...
It's been 15 years since they started making X-Men movies.
Yeah, and they're just like a fucking raging alcoholic running around, just like beating everybody in the party.
It's kind of like they pulled the wings off of a butterfly and they won't just step on it. They're just letting it crawl around, and it can't fly. It's just sad.
And it's just a sad metaphor.
It's awful. You know how I feel about metaphors.
Oh yeah, for sure. How does Logan feel about metaphors? Is the real
It's
question.
none of your bleeding business.
Well, I mean that's.
Yeah, he's got very specific opinions apparently. I don't know. All right.
So, anyways, that's we're moving on with this. We got a director for this piece of shit. It's actually Bryan Singer.
You might remember him from doing the first 2 X-Men movies.
Yeah, and I mean, Bryan Singer, he's kind of known for The Usual Suspects. That's the thing that he got the most notoriety for.
Which was a pretty good movie.
It's a great movie. And, him and the writer of that have kind of ridden that movie's success. Basically, if it isn't for Kevin Spacey, Bryan Singer has no career.
Don't bet on it.
All right, Logan,
Yeah.
just wait your turn, man. Jeez.
Yeah, so you got to understand that Bryan Singer, he's such a hit or miss director these days. Like, the first X-Men movie was passable. It didn't ruin everybody's life.
Well, hold on. What I will say about that one is that these people that aren't fans of things, like, they're just going to get to do projects, and that's fine. Like, the first movie, it was passable, but I was immediately ruined for me because Rogue was my favorite X-Men.
Right.
That's my favorite X-Men. And they combined her with Jubilee, and they just ruined the whole thing. Like, they just eliminated 2 good characters by making them into 1 useless character.
Yeah, I mean, how good would it have been to see that little kind of half-Asian mall rat girl with pink shades?
Right.
That would have been incredible. What do you think of that, Logan? She's a friend of yours, isn't she?
You've never heard of us.
Whoa.
That doesn't actually make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, you're just...
Are you drunk?
Yeah, I think he's crushing beers like Steve Austin.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's got to be.
But anyways, so where were we, man? We were talking about Rogue, X-Men
Anyway,
1.
the point is like, they get the franchise off, and, like, none of it is even, like, resembles, like, the comic book that it's based on, which is a shame because the material's already there for you. You literally have decades upon decades of material that's already proven good. But you're going to go with your own thing. And, Bryan Singer, you're not a bad director, but, like, we just don't know how it's going to end up.
Yeah, and so he kind of sets us on that path, and X-Men 2 was good. It was an entertaining film. It's easily the most entertaining of all the movies, actually. I'm going to come out and say that. Just because of Nightcrawler, and just all the stuff that was going on in that movie. So, I mean, he left. He left the franchise to go make the most boring Superman movie ever. I know what you're saying. How can you make a boring
Man of Steel, though?
How can you make it? But it's still boring.
It's very boring.
And
not only that, he took Cyclops with him, so we also get to lose Cyclops in the 3rd X-Men movie.
yeah,
Here's what I don't understand about X-Men 3. All right, so Bryan Singer leaves to go do his own project, which, you know what? I'm not stoked about it, but he has the right to do that. He did Superman exactly how he wanted to. I can't ever take that away from him. But, like, the powers that be that are left with, like, the last movie in the franchise, which is the one we're all going to remember the most, they give it to Brett Ratner. Brett Ratner, for those of you who don't know, is the genius that gave us Rush Hour, Rush Hour 2, and wait, Rush Hour 3. The man is a trilogy closer. He's ready to go.
he's a closer, and I mean, always be closing. They say.
But seriously, like, if Brett Ratner, Hitler, and Stalin were in one room and I had a gun with 2 bullets, I would shoot Brett Ratner twice. Because fuck him. He's an asshole, he doesn't know anything about anything, and he made a really, really bad movie that murdered an entire franchise.
We're keeping Stalin alive, right?
Yeah, obviously, me and Stalin are buddies.
Yeah, drinking the vodka.
You like Stalin too, don't you, Logan?
Yeah.
Okay,
No.
well, that's kind of weird.
That's
you would like
that's
Stalin.
weird. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, he likes to drink vodka at least, so
Yeah,
I can kind of get that.
Save your breath.
All right, man. We're just trying to talk this out, man. Just don't worry about it.
So we got we got that going on. So he does the Superman thing. He makes a really boring kind of Nazi movie with old Tom Cruise in it, Valkyrie, and then he kind of muddles around with this other, what is it, the Jack and the Beanstalk?
I don't know. It didn't have any midgets in it. That's all I got.
He just makes a series of just who doesn't. I don't really care. And so now he's back. He went back to the well, the proverbial well. And so here he is. He's back at the well. He's dropping the bucket in. The bucket is my asshole.
I don't know what Jason's talking about. He's talking about buckets and his butthole. I mean, I might poop into a bucket sometimes if I can't find. Truth be told, I just shit all over the place. That's all I know. I know Logan probably does it too.
Don't bet on it.
All right. Oh, sorry, man. Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the writers here. Because we all know the writers are just as responsible for any movie as.
I mean, they're not good. I can tell you that. Basically, the people responsible for this movie, what the fuck are their names?
Yeah, we got Simon Kinberg, who's the primary scriptwriter.
Right.
And he's basically just known for a bunch of things that I don't like.
Right. We got the team that brought us, like, Kick-Ass, or was it Kick-Ass or Kick-Ass 2, one of them?
Kick-Ass, the Kick-Ass franchise. Well, okay, I'll just tell you, all 3 of them, it's It's Simon Kinberg, Jane Goldman, and Matthew Vaughn. Now, Matthew Vaughn is a director. He actually directed Kick-Ass, Stardust, First Class.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, he's invested. He's kind of got his hands in the pie,
Sure.
the proverbial pie.
I had my hands in your mom's pie.
Yeah, I mean, god damn it. It's just not cool.
Just all up in there.
But
What flavor do you think that pie is, by the way?
So Matthew Vaughn.
No, really think about it. Think about that pie with my hands in it. What flavor pie is it? And what face is your mom making? Really think
Dead
about it.
Dead air. All right.
It's fine. We're almost there, aren't we, Logan?
Almost.
Yeah, I know, but don't worry about it.
Don't worry.
I know that's what I just said.
You heard me.
I mean, I can't not hear you.
Because I said so.
Well, okay. You win, Logan. I'm sorry, man. Let's just get back to the business at hand here.
Matthew Vaughn, he's a guy. I mean, whatever. He's invested in the franchise. Jane Goldman is kind of a script writer. She's got just seriously red hair and gigantic breasts, and
She actually looks like a fatter, older Jean Grey, which is
Yeah.
funny.
she's probably just a massive nerd.
Yeah, I mean, I know how
And-
Logan feels about Jean Grey.
Got bit by a dog, too.
That doesn't make any sense either, Logan. You're just saying stuff.
Well, I'm a mutant.
Okay, well, I guess that makes sense. All right, man.
So that's Jane Goldman in a nutshell. But most of all, the story and screenplay writer in this was Simon Kinberg. Now he's got responsibilities for First Class and X3 Last Stand, which a lot of people don't like to talk about.
It was pretty bad. I was so mad I ran out of the theater immediately when I saw X3.
I mean, I was so drunk when I saw it that
And I wish I'd been drunk.
I just kind of forgot what happened.
Yeah.
All right, you egg-sucking piece of gutter trash.
Wow.
Apparently Logan didn't like X-Men 3 either.
Yeah.
I
So
know. Dude, you gotta stop interrupting me, alright? Just chill out.
Sure.
Okay, good. We
yeah,
got Logan under
we're
control.
gonna ask you questions later,
We got
Logan.
Logan under control, it's fine.
So Simon Kinberg is he's just not a great writer. He's not. I mean, we're talking about Mr. and Mrs. Smith. We're talking about Jumper. I think it's called Jumper at least.
Yeah, I don't know. Just pretty people doing stupid things. That's what those movies are about.
Yeah, and none of it is awesome. None of it's inspiring.
Right. It's
And
very
that-
predictable Hollywood stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you should
Nothing
see
amazing.
the pictures of Simon Kinberg. He just looks like a guy who's really clean and and Sherlock Holmes. That's another great, movie he was involved with.
Oh yeah, so
Um, But he's already lined up for a whole bunch of other crap. He's going to be Fantastic Four and Gambit and X-Men Apocalypse.
yeah, thank God Channing Tatum is Gambit, for those of you that don't know already.
And so they've this is the guy who they've set their ship to sail with. And he's kind of replaced Zach Penn. And Zach Penn is the guy who wrote Last Stand, amongst other horrible movies. He's a Brett Ratner guy.
Yeah, I know.
And so, this is kind of the guy who they got to replace it. I don't know why they just don't get a good writer to do this, like a comic book writer. Like, for example, Disney, when they made Avengers, they went to this guy named Joss Whedon, who actually likes comics and is also...
Right, yeah, they got to give these things to nerds, like Joss Whedon, and,
Yeah, and
that one guy that directed those Hobbit movies.
This guy's not a
Are
nerd.
they about hobbits or about children that get touched a lot? I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I mean, first off, he's from London, England. Here's the thing. All these guys, Matthew Vaughn and the girl and Simon, they're all British. So, first off, they don't have the plight that we do. They just kind of fuck around with our history. They're
Would you say they're just mad at us from that one time in the 1700s?
Yeah, and I think they're just playing Candyland with our hearts.
Oh,
They're
wow.
trying to ruin our myths.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at his bio right now. It actually says he was born in 1973. So I mean, I'm just even more pissed about what I'm going to talk about later. But anyways, so that's who's responsible for this movie.
Yeah, nobody really worth noting. They're all meh,
Yeah. Well, I mean, Bryan Singer is kind of worth noting, but
I guess. I mean, at least he came back to try and fix what he started that people have been ruining for the last, over a decade.
yeah. But I still think it's kind of pretentious for him to come in and go, "Well, I can fix all this with a reboot."
Well, sure. But I mean, it was inevitable. They can't let the franchise go. So this is where we're at.
Well, they could have let it go.
Well,
I mean, they could have made more money that way. They could have sold it to Disney for $3 billion or whatever.
I mean, I think they just rather keep making movies because that's what Fox does. You know, if they have Dan Rather lie to America for a week, they're going to just keep making X-Men movies for the next 20 years until Hugh Jackman literally dies.
God, Dan Rather. What do you think of Dan Rather Wolverine?
Oh, no.
Yeah, I mean...
Not a fan, huh?
So, Days of Future Past. You know, before we get into this, you know, it's about to get into a dark place because this is a dark movie. It's a dark future. I just use the word dark a lot.
Logan, were you excited to go see this movie, or did you actually go see it?
Don't bet on it.
Wow.
Okay, well,
Yeah, I mean, you must have gone into the future and listened to this podcast, and now you've come back in time through the powers of Kitty Pryde.
Meaning what?
Well, I mean, it means that she put you back in time so you could come back here and tell us this review.
Lousy luck.
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
pretty much, man.
I feel unlucky. Why couldn't you have come back like a week in advance and told me and Andrew at our last podcast?
Careful what you ask for, buddy.
All right,
All right, man, you gotta just chill out, Logan. Anyway, so let's get going on this review here. What we got? So, Jason, how's the movie start? Tell everybody.
Well, if we're just I mean, first off, if you need spoiler alert time.
I mean, if you're listening to this and you don't know that we do spoilers, you're ding dong. Come on, spoiler time.
Yeah, you can't talk about a movie without spoilers. I read like 13 reviews of this shit, and they didn't use any spoilers. You know how long the reviews were? A paragraph.
Yep.
And they all gave it a positive. Fuck these people. So anyways, this movie starts off in the future, where it's basically the Matrix, or it's almost Matrix.
Well, there's something slow motion going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's dark, and there's a combat scene which is with a bunch of irrelevant characters that are just dying.
But I mean, at least we get to see some new mutants finally. And by new mutants, I mean like the old mutants, but now they're just doing more stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I would be all right with watching the old mutants do new things. Sure. I'm interested in that too. But anytime we see the old mutants, they're always doing the same old things. Right. But anyways, so they die. Oh, it's shocking.
Everybody's dead.
Well, except for Kitty Pryde, who is able to
get the wrong girl to adopt.
Yeah, I mean,
I wasn't aware we adopted Kitty Pryde Wolverine, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'd adopt Ellen Page, even though she's
good.
Yeah, why not?
So Ellen Page kind of transports Rastafarian black guy. I don't know who it is. I don't know if he's anybody.
It's Bishop. I don't know who it is in real life.
Right. I know who he is in anyway, so Bishop goes back in time, warns that they find out that they're able to loop time through sending people back through time.
This is all done through like a minute and a half of exposition. But before we get to that, I think it's important to point out that the Sentinels in this movie look exactly like the T-1000.
Yeah,
I'm not even kidding. Like straight out of the Terminator, they can turn their heads with knives and stabbing weapons. The cybernetic organism, living tissue on top of metallic endoskeleton. Like it's exactly the T-1000.
Yeah, they're made out of something. It's pretty crazy. Basically, if you have been waiting 30 years to see this story, or even 35 or 40 years to see a Sentinel on the screen, you didn't get to see it yet. Because a Sentinel, even in the future, the dark future, is a gigantic, 3-story metallic monster. And they're like little they're Godzilla killers. They're giant mech. And
giant robots with laser beams.
So
that's all we need.
So this has already been taken away from you. Instead, they had to make these hyper-evolved T-1000s, which, I mean,
I'm not going to say the action scenes weren't cool, but I mean, at the same time, I'm like, all right, I've seen this before.
But you don't care about them because you don't care about the characters.
I understand, but at least cool things are happening. If we don't care and cool things weren't happening, it'd be much worse.
I guess.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Don't get too mad.
So at this point, they decide to send back Wolverine because Wolverine has the capability to survive.
Yeah, this also includes the minute and a half of exposition where they're like, all right, well, Kitty Pryde can send me back in time. Cool. This might just work. Wait, Professor, we can't send you back in time. But what if somebody could survive the trip because they heal really fast? Oh, cool, we'll send Wolverine. That's the scene. I just recited every dialogue to you.
But, and then Xavier proceeds to say, well, when you go back in time, it's going to be really hard to deal with me. I didn't have my powers then. And then I turned to my brother, who I went to see this with, and we just cringed a little bit because why wouldn't Professor X have his powers?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any fucking sense. That's actually one of the plot points of one of the movies was in X3, they just invented a way to stop people from getting their powers. And it's like, well, that hasn't happened yet. That only happens in X3. Oh, but...
Well, I mean, the whole franchise is just lined with incongruencies because when you change directors and so many writers, like, every movie's so different, they just start making up stuff, and then every movie, for some reason, acknowledges the stuff they made up in the previous film that didn't make sense, and made up new stuff to try and make it make sense, but then it's like the Ouroboros snake, except instead of eating its own tail, it's literally just fucking its own asshole. Like, the dick goes through the butthole, comes out the mouth, and it might go back in 2 or 3 more times, and it's just rolling around, there's just shit everywhere, it's really gross, it's terrible. And that's the X-Men franchise to me.
Yeah, I mean, I would tend to agree.
Yeah.
So now we're back in time, we're back in 1973. That was when, one of the writers was born. What a fucking great idea. He's like, I'm going to set the story in the year I was born.
Right.
What great writing.
I mean, whatever. At least he knew stuff about that decade, maybe.
Yeah, not really. I mean, he wasn't really alive then, so. So Wolverine goes back in time and, he has to go talk to... Am I really going to talk through this whole movie? Like, do I have to sum it all up, or...
No, we don't need to. I mean, I would encourage you not to do that. I know you love hearing yourself talk.
Yeah,
But we got to get to our interview with Logan. He's just sitting here being very patient.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a movie. People go back in time.
Shut up.
Oh, let him explain a little bit more.
Shut up.
Logan, come on, man.
Please don't have to listen to your flapping mouth anymore.
Well, I mean, you are because we haven't finished talking about the movie.
Save your breath.
All right, Logan, go outside and have a cigarette while we talk about this.
Yeah,
movie.
go out with Bella.
Yeah,
Hang out with Andrew's dogs.
yeah. I don't even know why he would do that.
I don't want to talk about the summary of this movie. At the end of the day, it's a pile of stuff that makes no sense. And I'm just gonna break it down. I actually have a very concise rage list here.
I know it's actually so big I almost don't get to talk at all.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna do all of it. I'm just gonna start pointing out things, and we'll intermingle the story that comes along if that sounds
Sure.
all right. So I thought of this as these are just if you like this movie, and I guess this is why I'm pissed. This movie got really well reviewed. And I have, a lot of people say, man, I really enjoyed that movie. And I don't understand why people are saying that, other than the fact that all the other previous movies were so bad that they got this movie and they're like, oh, well, it wasn't that bad. But it's kind of it's what we call, it's a bump. You're getting the bad movie bump. Well, this was the bad franchise bump. You got something that was mildly functioning.
Basically, you've been eating a soggy shit sandwich for the last 10 years, and then somebody all of a sudden gives you a solid shit sandwich. They've been taking their probiotics, maybe trying to eat some vegetables and not just fast food all the time, and you're like, oh man, this solid shit sandwich is way better than that soggy one.
Yeah, and so I think that's why people liked it. And the critics come out and like it because they're too scared to say otherwise because they know they'll just get the wrath of the nerd rage if they don't. So there's 5 things that you should fucking hate about this movie, about Days of Future Past.
5 things. All right, go. Number 1.
So number 1, we're going to talk about the characters are all fucking wrong. All right? We got Beast hulks out. Beast, he's
What have you done with Beast?
what did you do with? What happened to Beast?
Where's Beast?
Where's
Beast?
Yeah. Beast, he's a guy, he's a human, he's Hank McCoy.
Beast told you about this place.
Yeah, I mean...
He's told us about a lot of stuff. Hank McCoy.
Yeah, and so Beast is... First off, Beast is one of my favorite characters. He's easily probably my favorite X-Man of the original team. And his whole shtick so far in this franchise has just been a shtick up my ass. Because the thing is that Beast is super hyper intelligent. But he's also, he's just crazy awesome. He's super strong, agile. He can do whatever he wants. And it just so happens his powers have backfired on him to the point where now he looks like a blue furry monster. Well, in the movies...
Furry monster. I got a furry monster for you, buddy.
Yeah. So in the movies now, he's suppressed his power for some reason. In the books, there's a whole line where he doesn't want to be, he feels bad about being a furry monster. He does. He doesn't really like being that way. But
I know plenty of dudes that love furry monsters.
But he's still a mutant, and he still embraces being a mutant. But sometimes he wishes he could change that. Well, in the movie, they just they run with that because they're like, oh, this is angst. And it's also going to make it easier to cast a person for this because we don't have to have CGI all the time or makeup all the time. So basically, they come up with a way to turn him into Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which I don't know. I don't know a lot about comic books, but
he kind of hulks out when he gets mad because he can't control his thing, even though he takes medicine that suppresses his mutation.
yeah. So whenever he gets angry, he literally turns into a blue monster, and it makes absolutely no fucking sense. You should hate this movie because they ruined Beast. My next thing is Shadowcat.
What have you done with Beast?
Yeah, Wolverine agrees.
Yeah.
So Shadowcat. Gosh, Shadowcat is Kitty Pryde or Sprite. You know, if you know enough about anything.
She's the girl that runs through walls.
She's the most important, one of the most important characters in the X-Men because she's Chris Claremont's.
Right. I think before we go any further on Rage talk, we should pause for a second and be like, so we know a bunch of people that aren't fans of things are making this stuff to make money. That's the premise behind this whole movie franchise. It's 15 years of people that don't read comics, don't care about stuff because they work for a corporation that are making things. And I secretly, deep down inside, really want to love things, even though they're all terrible. But, like, do you really expect them to adapt it well? I mean, like, personally, from, like, a third-party standpoint, like, not as a fan, like, you really expect them to always adapt it super well in all these movies, because so far they've failed in pretty much every adaptation, and you ever take a couple.
I expect them to try to keep things at least congruent in their own story.
Sure, I agree with
and
that.
Like the reason, and like the thing I want to bring up here is, like the thing I'm like mostly harping on is like, why did she have a new power when they could just have easily brought in a new mutant to do it? And, like, because they know this would just piss me off. Like, so, I mean, Simon Kinberg put this in here to piss me off. But, how... They've already brought in 5 new characters. They brought in Warpath. Warpath does absolutely nothing.
He spots those monoliths.
You know who could do something? A fucking telepath kineticist like Rachel Summers. Like, it's not that hard.
Well, yeah, Ray
but
you
can have her do both gimmicks. Like, she could be like, oh, I could scout these people because I'm smart.
That's the whole thing, is it's a corporation. They wanted to bring back Ellen Page. They wanted to bring back as many old faces as possible.
You can have her in the story, too. But, like, you know, whatever. So, I'm not gonna, like, harp on the whole Shadowcat. I mean, there's a lot of problems. Like, Colossus is even alive in the fucking timeline, and she's with fucking Bobby Drake. And it's like, well, what the fuck happened? You know, Rogue died, obviously, and, you know, Bobby Drake had to, you know, fuck the next thing. But, I mean, Colossus and Ellen Page, or Colossus and Kitty Pryde. Like, that, it's just that easy.
Sure.
So, whatever. Now, last other bit, you should hate this movie because of what they did to Shadowcat.
Okay.
That's
I mean, I'm also a fan, I agree with you 100%, but, like, my expectations of this shit has been so low for so many years, like, I just expect everything to be wrong.
But you shouldn't. You shouldn't.
Well,
like,
we have no control over it. I mean, I agree. I would like to hope for better things, but, like, there's just nothing we can do about it.
They're fucking people. Like, they should just look at the script. They should just look at the comic and go, oh, this isn't right. We should fucking do this.
Well, I mean, I agree, but they don't do that.
Anyways, that's not what I'm arguing, Wolverine.
Wolverine's outside smoking.
Okay.
Now, yeah.
So, the last reason why you should hate this fucking movie is because the character that's wrong is Quicksilver. Like, nothing makes sense about this Quicksilver character and his use of powers. And everybody's talking about this scene, the scene where he basically stops time and does a whole bunch of cool shit. Like, that's not super speed. That's, you know, he slowed down time and manipulated everything around him. But just the inconsistencies of the use of his power in the movie just really upsets me. Like, the first time you introduce him, you come in, you see a carpet, the carpet's all burnt. And you're like, okay, so apparently whenever he's around the environment, he fucking tears everything up. So the next time you see him is in his basement, which is all kind of neat and orderly, and there's like a lot of shit everywhere because he's a kleptomaniac, whatever. And, you know, he starts zooming and zigging and zagging around the 3 characters there, and it doesn't affect them at all. Like he was moving so fast that, like, people should just be falling over or just, you know, actually being hurt. Like, their shirts should be on fire. Like carpets. And then, like, you think about, like, the carpet in there probably should be no carpet or, like, everything should... But, you know, whatever. Like, they don't want to show that. They don't want to deal with that. So, whatever. His environment is fine. Like, he doesn't actually affect his environment. And then later in the movie, he runs so fast, he knocks 12 people over. And which one is it? Does he affect everything around him? Or, you know, is he just so fast that, like, the environment doesn't even know he was there?
Again, this just goes back to the people that write these movies. They don't know anything about stuff.
I'm not even talking about the powers. I'm just talking
Yeah.
that's just bad. That's just a bad move. That's just bad stuff.
Well, I
that's
mean, it's
inconsistent,
it's
right?
very inconsistent. All these movies have been inconsistent. And I know it's been sounding like I'm using that as an excuse, but like they're all so inconsistent. Like at this point, like like it's just throwing more gasoline on the fire until the fire goes out when they reboot the movie. Like that's the whole
Right.
thing. They're just getting all the shit out of their system, maybe with this one, like just to impress everybody. Like if they throw enough crap into the movie, like I agree with you about this whole Quicksilver thing, but it was still an entertaining scene. I thought.
Right. I mean, all things considering, like I heard a friend that actually thought, like he actually like was so into the movie that he thought Xavier was using his mental powers to like slow people down with combining it with his super speed,
Which would have been amazing.
which would have been amazing
Xavier
if
had powers.
Yeah, Xavier didn't have powers because he was on spinal heroin.
Sure.
So, but we'll get to that. So, you should fucking hate this movie because of what they did to Quicksilver. So, that's point one. I mean, that's how elaborate. I'm not going to be that elaborate.
I know. I
every
spent
time,
all
but-
day reading all of Jason's points, and actually took an extra year off of my life because I already lost 3 years of my life from all the X-Men movies combined.
Yeah. So, there's too many fucking characters. I mean, I'm just going to say
that's
it.
the problem with all these comic movies. They just cram in too many dudes. But like with the thing like X-Men, there are so many cool characters. It's hard to give them their like enough time. But I mean, I thought they came close to giving each character.
But just
time.
back up. Is there too many characters in Avengers?
No.
Why is exactly the X-Men should be the same? There should be no problem.
Well, it should be, but
But-
I mean, like we've already established, the writing is bad. So, like, if you can't find a way to like
Right.
give every character their moment of dignity, you just have them run around
Yeah.
and do crap. And like they use the mutant powers as a huge crutch. Like, all right, we don't have to have this character talk or add anything to like what Colossus has one line. He says somebody's name. I don't
Yeah,
even know
and
what he says.
they're throwing a dog a bone
Yeah.
at this point.
We're reminded that he actually can speak. He's not mute, but like he doesn't need to do anything in this movie because we just get to see him use his powers a little bit, and then he dies a couple times. Same thing with the rest of them. Like the mutant powers are a serious crutch to distract us from the fact that they don't know how to write personalities for these characters.
Yeah.
When there's just decades worth of material that's already provided for you to make the characters come to life.
Yeah, I mean you can't. You basically haven't. I mean, you summed this part up better than I could have. But just to point out, the beginning, there's just too many fucking characters, and they kill them 3 times, whatever, and I don't care about those new characters. And then the characters that I might care about, like Storm, Magneto. I kind of care about Magneto, right? He's the supervillain of the last fucking 3 movies, isn't he?
Correct, yeah. And
What did he do in this movie? He stopped some shit.
he did the same thing he's done in all sorts of movies. He moved bullets, he levitated guns.
I'm talking about Ian McKellen.
Oh,
I'm talking about Gandalf.
he didn't do nothing.
Yeah, like why did they even ask him on set? Like, I mean, he was back from New Zealand. He's like, yeah, I just got done getting fist bucked by Peter Jackson in the last Hobbit movie. Now I'm here to do this. So whatever. But all those characters at the beginning, it's just there's no emotional impact there. Like they're killing them. Who cares? Like it doesn't matter. And then like the other superfluous mutant scene was the Mystique scene where she just like busts out a bunch of people. And it's like, okay, well, we're never going to see these characters again. I guess that's like supposed to be. That was like another plot hole, but whatever. Like,
Sure.
the whole point is like there's these extra mutants, and it's like, oh, it's Toad. Who the fuck gives a shit about
Well,
Toad?
I think
And it wasn't Ray Park.
The point of that scene was probably to tie it back in that she was friends with Havoc, and Havoc was in the tent.
Sure,
They
but
just
I
want to
mean,
connect
but
the
what would
movies.
have been better was she breaks them out, and she's like, join me,
Right.
my Brotherhood of Evil Mutants.
Well, what would have been better is if they would have just followed the plot that's already written that's good, and
Yeah.
just throw like a little bit more of their own spin on it.
right, and that would have been fine.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you. What even would have been better is if Wolverine was in Vietnam
Oh yeah.
and he had to break people out. Oh,
Of course, according to that one movie, he was in Vietnam.
yeah. Were you in Vietnam, Wolverine? You're back from his smoke. He's not back from his smoke
I
break.
don't
is
know
he?
where he is. He's just pacing around outside.
Yeah, he's so angry
Wolverine,
right now.
were you? Oh wait, hey, Logan, come here. Logan, sit down. Were
He's
you?
crawling into this room.
Were you in Vietnam?
It's none of your bleeding business.
What? Why? I mean, we're just asking you a question. I mean, do you not?
I wish I could tell you.
So you don't remember? Were you drunk?
Sure.
I mean, just can I just get a straight answer?
I mean,
Almost.
I mean, that doesn't make
I
sense.
think we all know that he hasn't gotten his powers back unless it's post House of M. So,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
so anyways, you should hate this movie because there's too many fucking characters. Like, you only need 7 or 8 characters. You can make that work very well.
Very well, yeah. I mean, they're just doing it for flash and bang because, like, it's a gimmick to compensate for bad writing. We've already established that. That's for the whole movie.
So point number 3 here is you should hate this movie because of Professor X in 1973. And I am talking about you, James McAvoy, specifically.
Yeah, I hate James McAvoy.
Yeah, I mean, he was in Wanted.
Wanted was such a fucking bad movie. Even with that one guy that explains things to me really slow, he might be black because you gotta have a black guy in every movie.
I mean, he just explains everything so well.
It's Morgan Freeman. I know who he is.
I don't hate that movie, but that might be a future review. Like, I'm kind of interested to see why you hate it so much. But either way, James McAvoy, he's done some romantic films where he plays people and things. And he shouldn't be in this movie. He's not Professor X. Like, he is not a young Picard. Like not even remotely.
I mean, no one's a young Picard.
Yeah.
That's the problem. They just have to pick pretty faces to fill slots. That's what they do.
So, I mean, they made him into a drug-addled hippie. And he's into the 70s stuff. Like, he listens to records by James Brown. And he just sits around and mopes all day. And it's like, oh my God, like, don't give human characteristics to Professor Xavier. Professor Xavier, that would be like, I don't know. Like, let's give human characteristics to Martin Luther King. I don't want to know Martin Luther King's human characteristics.
Dude, he died for your sins.
I believe that he, was the head of this movement, and he's a great person, and we celebrate him. But we don't want to worry about all the affairs that he has, or all the dumb shit, or like the drugs he was taking. Or I'm not saying he did any of that. I'm not like an expert on Martin Luther King.
I think you just accused Martin Luther King of banging whores and doing drugs on the air in front of all these people. That just happened.
Yeah. So
he has a dream to bang whores and blow off of the whores.
But I mean, that's I hate making this is a metaphor. Obviously, Xavier is a metaphor for Martin Luther King. He always has been. And
but Xavier's white.
Right, because it's about mutants.
Well, yeah.
It's supposed to make people sympathize for African Americans.
Dr. King is black and Xavier's white.
Anyways,
hold on, I'm really confused about this metaphor thing. I'm super confused. They're different colors, Jason.
So, anyways, just stop fucking making him a hippie. Like, don't do that anymore, and don't make him drug-addled. It's horrible.
So, Wolverine, how do you feel about the casting of McAvoy and all that stuff?
All right, you egg-sucking piece of gutter trash.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, man. Phew.
He literally quoted James Brown in a song, and this took me out of whatever moment I was in. Like, I turned to my brother, and I was angry. And none of you probably know anything about James Brown, because most of the people probably listening to this show are white. To be perfectly honest.
I mean, we all know I don't have any black friends.
Yeah, and neither do I, really. So,
I mean, do we even have black people in Fort Collins?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen one.
One?
But he literally says the line...
Was he running really fast somewhere?
He literally says the line, I don't know karate, but I know crazy. Now, those of you who watch movies in the last 20 years know that's from Shanghai Noon, where Owen Wilson says it. He's in a movie with Jackie Chan. It's a funny comedy movie. And I didn't even fucking know he was quoting James Brown at the time. I actually came across that quote from James Brown from the song Payback. It's from his 1973 album. Way to go, Kingberg. You're so fucking clever with your references. But, I mean, seriously, don't ever quote another movie in your movie. There's rules. There's fucking rules. Remember when Jar Jar Binks was quoting Bill Cosby comedy routines in episode 1? It was no good. It pissed people off. My tongue was ravaged. That's literally from a Bill Cosby routine.
Sure.
Yeah. So, anyways...
Just so you guys know, I'm having a very difficult time breathing in this room right now because Jason is sucking up all the oxygen that I'm trying to sustain myself on. I mean, how do you feel about this, Logan?
He's a threat.
I know, he's taking all my goddamn air. Jesus.
I can smell him.
I know, he smells really bad.
But
I can still smell him.
I know, dude, it's fucking terrible. Jesus.
So the bottom line, the reason why I hate Professor X is they do this whole gimmick with the serum. And can you please fucking tell me how a serum that affects your DNA fixes your spinal cord?
I don't know. I can't answer that question. I'm not a biologist or a physicist. Or
But,
any
like,
of those people.
I just want you to imagine you're a director or a writer,
Mhm.
and you have a giant stick up your ass. Like, all the time.
Sure.
Like, you are just, your prostate is getting massaged all the time.
I mean,
Just for walking.
that's actually amazing. I wish someone was massaging my prostate right now.
Right. Where does that, what do you even come up with that idea
See, I mean,
that a serum can affect your mutant powered DNA
I don't know, man.
and your spinal
How did
cord?
George Lucas figure out what to name Chewbacca? He was probably really high. Like, they're in a room and they're drunk and they don't care. They're trying to make a movie to make millions of dollars, and that's what they're doing.
Chewbacca's like, I don't want to get into it.
I mean, you're telling
actually-
me George Lucas isn't token the reefer,
Wow.
token the reef a little bit.
All right.
Yeah, he's one of them users, as Jamie might say.
Yeah, that's true. He probably was a user.
Look, the point is, we've more than established that the writers don't know anything and they're bad at stuff. Like, they can't even do basic story structure because there's tons of plot holes.
Which is my fourth reason why you should
What-
fucking hate this movie, is because there's inconsistent and bad writing. I literally have like 10 points on a sheet. I just kept coming up. I was like a volcano of bullshit. I don't even want to get into it. I mean, I feel like we've touched a lot of them.
All right, let's.
But
try
let's just touch the one, like,
One thing,
just
okay.
the movie.
the movie.
The movie itself. Like,
Okay.
the premise of the movie, bear with me here. In the past, Peter Dinklage got killed by Mystique. Because of this, in the future, Sentinels. That's the fact of what happened in the future.
That's what they say. Correct.
We're going to send someone back in time to stop Peter Dinklage, who is still designing Sentinels, right? We're sending someone back to not kill him. And he will just magically stop wanting to design these weapons. All right. That's the theory. It made no sense. Like, when they told me it was going to happen that way, I'm like, well, that's a fucking interesting idea. Normally you go back in time to kill the person to stop the thing from happening. They just went in the opposite fucking direction here. Like, they took what was in the plot. Like, they were wanting to not kill a guy who was like a mutant rights activist. That's what they were worried about. Anyways,
Well, it's a time travel movie, and it's apparently very difficult to make a good time travel movie that makes sense.
so bear with me here. Then they stop the guy from getting killed, and he's still going to go through with it. And then they immediately admit that that was going to happen all along anyways. And then they proceed to continue to not kill him. But they apparently changed Mystique's mind. And that was the only threat, was Mystique and Magneto. I don't really think they changed Magneto's mind because he tried to turn everybody into mutants in the year 2000. But you're telling me for 27 years the U.S. government's like, well, shit, we better not try to do anything about mutants this whole... Let's just completely forget that Richard Milhouse Nixon tried to get killed. That's a thing that happened in this movie. Like, what... Can you explain it to me at all? Like...
Okay, hold on. Logan's got something to say.
At least I won't have to listen to your flapping mouth anymore.
Well, I mean, we're not done talking about it yet.
Watch your mouth, pal.
Is that a rhetorical question, Logan? I'm so confused.
Sure, make a lot of noise.
Yeah, I know. All right, so we've established that there's a lot of plot holes in this movie, and they're gaping, huge chasmic plot holes, much like a lot of vaginas I'm familiar with here and there. And, for fans of things, people that appreciate good writing, and people that are fans of this franchise, that's very frustrating for us. But, I mean, it's just what we got. So, I mean, the only thing we can do now is just hope for better movies. Hope somebody knows, somebody cares somewhere in the world. So there's that. All right, Jason, you got anything else that's important?
Really, I feel like I said that was the smoking gun. That was the bullet that killed Kennedy. Oh,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
The mutant, of course.
Right, which is funny because they curve bullets, and McAvoy was in that other movie where they curve bullets, and I'm like, oh man.
Do you know that Magneto doesn't actually have to curve bullets? He can actually take a bullet and put it in a straight trajectory.
I did know that, yeah.
Like, he doesn't have to curve anything.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, fuck this movie. Fuck everything that happened.
I mean, what I will say is that
I have a list of just shit where it's like sheet is just at the every.
I know you do.
Fuck.
I know you
That's
do.
all it
Calm
says.
down. It's like, on top of that, like, it's a very plot-driven story, and I was pretty entertained the whole time despite the plot holes. But like, it's a very plot-driven story where the characters don't actually make the decisions to change the story. The plot just does it for you, which is lazy bad writing. For example, all the characters just agree with each other and believe each other, like, immediately. Like, Wolverine goes back in time, and, like, he has Xavier convinced of this, even though older Xavier just gave him this big speech about, like, be patient with me, teach me, guide me. And it's like, well, all right, I believe you, because I looked at a picture and I got sad. And, later, Magneto tells Professor X that he didn't actually kill Kennedy and that he was trying to save him. And they just repair their friendship just immediately because everybody just
Professor X didn't even know he was a mutant. He just believed him.
Yeah.
Even though Professor X for a long time had Cerebro, which, if you remember, the Cuban Missile Crisis happens in like late 1962.
Yeah. Plot holes everywhere.
You could have just jumped on Cerebro and clicked it on.
Plot holes.
They just assume we don't fucking know our American history. They just, those British people, they're
just mass.
Goddamn British people.
Will you calm down for a second? You are out of control. They're just mass producing films to make money. That's what they're doing here, and they just happen to be raping something that we like while they do it. Now, moving on. Let's find some positives out of this movie for our viewers, or our listeners, I guess, because no one's actually watching us. Because if they could see us, we'd just be these sweaty guys in this little room, just completely naked. Biggest erections you've ever seen. Like, honestly, right now, Jason's erection is so big, he could probably take it outside and go hunt with it. Like, literally, he could take his ding-dong outside and go beat an elk to death with it. And I'd be like, I was a vegetarian for 10 years. But then I'd probably just fuck the elk because I'm a weirdo. Okay. Moving on, positive things, Jason. Name me one positive thing about this movie. Just one thing for the listeners.
He filmed old stuff like it was the 70s. He's so smart. I mean, it just looked so schlocky and 70s like, and in the future it looked all slick. I mean, that's honestly, and they actually made a shitty Sentinel robot. Like at least one of those was a practical effect.
Sure. I do kind of think the old Sentinels kind of looked like vacuum cleaners. Like, they kind of look like really big dustbusters. And then I thought about, like, could you put your dick inside of a Sentinel? Like, I could put my dick inside of a vacuum. Like, what would happen? But with my luck, it would probably be more like a lawnmower in there than a dustbuster with that just pleasant sucking sensation. But yeah, I mean, I think they could have looked better. So we got the dustbuster Sentinels, and then we got the T-1000 Sentinels. And I'm like, okay. And suspension of disbelief here and there, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, positive things I think I can derive from this movie is despite all these horrible plot holes, my expectations were so low that I was still entertained by the action scenes. And, like, these characters, even though they're not great, they're the ones that we've had for the last 15 years, so we're just used to them. Like Wolverine, he's been the same, Hugh Jackman, in every single movie. Obviously not Logan Wolverine, because, Wolverine's too busy doing stuff.
Good.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
I'm not here to impress you.
I know you're not, dude. But the point is that, like, we're comfortable with Hugh Jackman being Wolverine, and I'm still entertained. Like, and certainly, like, I expect him to get up without his shirt on and be yoked and stab some people, and he does.
I mean, were you really entertained about anything Hugh Jackman did in that movie?
Sure. It's the same old gimmicks. I mean,
what did he do? He didn't do anything to entertain you.
I mean, he talked a little trash and he beat up some dudes and then he just walked around the rest of the movie. That's what he did. That's all Wolverine ever does. It's fine. Like, it's not great. I mean, I'm actually happy there was a minimal amount of Wolverine in this movie because we already had 2 Wolverine movies. I don't need more Wolverine doing stuff.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
again, despite plot holes, thing with Quicksilver, that was still an entertaining scene. They had the fucking Time in a Bottle. I know you love that song. I could save time in a bottle.
You just wait.
Oh, yeah.
Just wait, everybody.
Yeah. He runs around and does stuff, and it's not great, but it's entertaining. Mystique, I can fucking look at Jennifer sit on my face Lawrence and fucking blue shit all day. Which, alright, special question about that. Mystique, when she goes on the rag, do you think it just comes out like blueberry syrup? Like it's just this really thick, like sweet-tasting syrup that just dribbles out of her vagina? Because if that was the case, I would literally cover my whole body in it like war paint, and I would run around like Braveheart just giving that speech over and over again. If you run, you'll live for a while. What when you're old and dying in your beds years from now? You know, you just go on and on like that, but I'm just covered in fucking, like, vag blood from Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique because it's just so awesome. But yeah, you know, she looks fucking great in that costume, and she beat the shit out of a lot of dudes, and, like, we've seen it before, but it still entertains me, just like I've already seen Magneto levitate guns. Whatever, it was good enough. He had his moment, he lifted up that stadium and controlled robots, and, like, I would actually argue Magneto was probably the star of this movie, young Magneto anyway, because he just, like, nobody could stop him till, like, the very end.
I mean, Michael fucking Fassbender he's an entertaining cat.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
And I think he's a decent actor. Like, when he had his little tantrum on the plane, you know, I believed it.
Yeah, I mean, he's not the conjurer of cheap tricks.
He's not. He is not.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't come along on this segment. I have nothing nice to say about this movie.
I know. I'm just trying to.
I wish I did. I'm
just trying to say that, like, it's all is not lost in this, and, like, I'll stick by my.
It's not Robert Redford on a boat in the middle of the ocean.
It's definitely not. It's certainly not Tom Hanks talking to a fucking soccer ball or
Wilson.
Volleyball. Yeah, I still get sad when Wilson dies. But look, same old shit. Still sort of entertaining, but, like, I'll stick by the soggy shit sandwich metaphor from earlier. Like, it was a solid shit sandwich, and, like, maybe they'll pull their shit together for the next one. But, like, they rebooted the whole series now, so, like, there's just nothing we can do about it. We can just pretend all the other movies never happened because we get a whole new timeline. It was probably the smartest thing they've done in the last 10 years as far as X-Men goes on screen.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but it's a shitty reboot because it's still up in the air.
Sure.
Like, we still don't know. Like, was it after X-Men 1? Is it after X-Men 2? Like, Kitty Pryde's a professor, apparently.
See, and for all we know, and, like, in this new universe, when Logan wakes up at the end of the movie, there could still be Sentinels, but they could just not be, you know, kidnapping everybody and putting them in internment camps. They could just be walking around and then more shit's going to happen. We just don't know.
Yeah, but it would have been...
I mean, I agree, dude. We've been fucking waiting for Sentinels since the fucking 90s, and we finally got them, and they were kind of a boner. Kind of a letdown.
Yeah.
T-1000, you know.
I just wish... I think, like, the end of the movie needed to be a little more fleshed out to give us, like, this is what you should expect. Like, anytime you do a reboot, you need to set the new rules. But I guess they're just going to wait for the next movie to set the new rules. And the new rules are going to be that Channing Tatum is Gambit. So,
yeah,
I mean...
Yeah. Hey, Logan, how do you feel about Channing Tatum?
Too bad you don't know how to do anything but pick pockets and steal candy from babies.
God, you really hate Channing Tatum. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan either. He's kind of...
You know who does like him? Brian Singer.
Yeah.
Yeah, he saw fucking Magic Mike.
Yeah.
He appreciated his creative input.
Yeah, I mean, Logan, are you happy about this casting? Yeah, no, I didn't think so. Just terrible things all over the place.
God, I mean, you're just so insightful, Logan. I mean, thanks for coming on the show.
Logan's got a...
Oh, I love it when they play hard to get.
Well, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I think Logan's fixing to maybe do something inappropriate to our bung holes with those claws of his. I'm not really sure. That would actually really suck a lot. It would suck more than Rambus, Chad Johnson, and the fucking vacuum lawnmower wiener decapitating Sentinels that we were just talking about combined. Just getting fist fucked by Wolverine.
So we've finished our review, which has gone on for a while.
Well, I mean, let's be fair. Jason finished his review. If you want to tune into mine, perhaps I'll make a bonus episode where I actually get a chance to talk.
Do you have more things to say?
No, I'm good.
All right, so you're just being D.
I mean, I just love you.
So let's talk about our ratings. We're gonna do in our next when we do a Q&A, we're actually gonna explain the rating system to people who don't remember it. Which is like me and Andrew. We don't remember that well, but...
Well, I mean, we remember it. We
remember it, just
but
not...
basically,
yeah.
I don't... So, there's 7 seals. Oh, there's actually a lot of seals in that book about Jesus that did stuff. But basically, there's 7 seals. The first 4 seals are the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And we just pick a seal that describes how we're feeling about the movie.
Yeah. So
generally, the earlier seals aren't as bad as the later seals, but whatever. They're all pretty relative in general.
So, I thought this... I will say this. This movie... did have a bonus because it rated itself for me at the end. Like, they showed up at the end and they put the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse on there. So, I mean, it was kind of pimping our show, really, in some ways. But 4 horsemen, the 4th horseman is death. I mean, that says it all for me. Like, kill this franchise, please, before it just continues to just ravage my childhood. But, you know...
The rider on his pale horse.
Yeah, I mean, we know that's not going to stop. But, once again, I'm just out here. I'm trying to be the voice of reason to say, like, you should fucking hate this movie for these reasons. So, I gave it a 4. That's kind of where I'm at. 4 seals.
4 seals. 4 seals being death. Jason wants the franchise to die, and I can't say that I disagree with that. Logan, what do you feel about this movie?
I'm sending you back to Oz.
Okay, well, that's fine.
God, I wish we could go back to Oz.
I mean, Return to Oz is a fucking terrifying movie. You know, with those wheelie guys, and the lady takes her head off, and oh god, that's fucking awful. I was kind of torn on where to rate this movie. You know, I went back and forth. I mean, I agree with Jason 100%. The franchise needs to go to bed. Like, you guys have butchered so many movies, and even though I was more entertained by this one than I have been by one since, like, X-Men 2, you know, I just still think you guys need to stop and go butcher something else until, you know, X-Men's butthole can heal enough that maybe it can get back on the horse.
Yeah, I mean, like, wouldn't the Bryan Singer crew just be better at making, like gay pity films?
Sure.
You know?
I don't know what that means, but yeah.
Well, it's like movies where, like, you watch gay people go through just horrible plights.
Oh, that. Well, I mean, yeah.
That's kind of what the X-Men is, except it's cool the whole time.
Sure. Well, I mean, I obviously feel bad for everybody that's ever suffered.
Right.
Because I'm white. So anyway, you know, I've been going back and forth about what to give this movie, and while I do agree with Jason that the franchise needs to die, I think I'm gonna go with Famine on this one because, like, this one gave me just a little nugget of hope, like, maybe the next one will be good, maybe, but probably not. So I'm hungry for more. I'm full of famine, and I'm like one of those little black kids in Africa on those commercials. There's just flies walking across my eyes, and I just want somebody to give me $1 a month because apparently that buys you a house in Africa. But it won't cure your AIDS, though. I got to get $2 for that.
Yeah.
Thank God. So yeah, death and famine. This is where we're at on that.
Death and famine. So yeah, we're about at an hour for our show, which is, you know, the longest show we've ever recorded.
Oh my God. Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up, but you know, nobody submitted any questions this week.
Yeah, so we just
kept on talking. So if you want to hear less of us talking, please God, submit some questions so Jason doesn't scream at me for another hour.
Yeah, I mean, we thought Wolverine was a pretty good guest today. We might have a couple more questions for him.
Yeah, because, you know, he's really excited to answer questions because of things.
Well, I'm on mute.
Well, we know, dude. We know. It's fine. But, anyhow, so...
He doesn't really have too much to say anymore. Right?
No, he's a little sleepy. Are you sleepy?
Careful what you ask for, buddy.
Well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would I be careful about asking you if you were tired? You just really just...
Don't bet on it.
Alright, man. Logan, are you high right now? Is that what's happening?
Don't worry.
Okay, I'll try really hard not to worry.
Yeah, he's a user.
He's definitely one of them users. I mean, how long have you been using drugs, Logan?
I wish I could tell you.
Why can't you tell me? Oh, he just passed out. Logan's dead. Wait, he's awake. Logan, what do you feel about, like, Bryan Singer and everybody that made this movie? Okay, so you're a little mad. Like, what would you like to do if you saw them?
So we get him, and we shred him.
Okay.
Does he have a rating for this movie?
I don't know, man. Like, what do you think, Logan? What is your overall synopsis of this new X-Men movie?
You're thinking, Doc. The question is, can I get Wolverine before he turns me to shish kebab with those claws? Well, seeing as how these claws are adamantium, the strongest metal known, and can slice through vanadium steel like a hot knife through butter, buddy, you gotta ask yourself, do I feel lucky?
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, man. That was pretty intense, right? So we got Wolverine, Logan over here. He doesn't particularly like the franchise either.
Yeah.
But, all right, yes, friends, please submit questions if you have them so we don't have to just talk for an hour. You know, just hit up the Facebook page, End of the World Movie Reviews Podcast on Facebook. We have an email, endoftheworldreviews@gmail.com. I check it every day. You know,
You're just avidly waiting.
I am. I'm just sitting by my computer crying. You know, my pants are half on.
Yeah, I mean, we did have some comments about, like, why they had to use, like, people had to use Google a lot.
Yeah.
To get through on our reviews.
But I'm going to put it on iTunes, so you can download us on iTunes and listen to us on your iPod, and that'll be exciting.
Well, until next time, next week might be Maleficent. It might be 1,000 Ways to Die in the West. It might also be. Oh, we had a special request from James Starring for us to review a movie.
That's true.
What's it called?
Suburban Commando.
Yeah. So this is a this is a movie with Hulk Hogan in it.
Yeah,
That's really all that matters.
It's
so.
a great. I mean, my grandma took me to see it in the theater. I
Yeah,
can tell you that.
that's a long time ago.
She's dead. So y'all show some respect.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I'm still pretty sad about it.
But so you never know. We'll try to do another. We'll try to break it up next time. This was just such an important, event for us.
Mhm.
So until next time, everybody. My name is Jason,
I'm Andrew.
and we're sounding off with our special guest. What was his name again?
I don't know. He looks dead to me.
Oh yeah,
actually.
he's probably dead.
Yeah.
Well, until next time, everybody.
If I could save time in a bottle, the first thing that I'd like to do is to save every day till eternity passes away, just to spend them with you. If I could make days last forever, if words could make wishes come true, I'd save every day like a treasure, and then again I would spend them with you. But there never seems to be enough time to do the things you want to do once you find them. I've looked around enough to know you're the one I want to go through time with. If I had a box just for wishes,